Joining me now is today's panel. Francesca Chambers, White House correspondent for USA Today. Mo Alithi, Democratic strategist and executive director of Georgetown's Institute of Politics and Public Service. And Mark Bednar, Republican strategist who served as communications director for now Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy when he was a member of Congress. Thank you all for being here. A lot to unpack today. But let's start, Francesca, with this interview that the Times did with Senator John Cornyn. I thought it was incredibly revealing because he's candid about the fact that he, among other Republicans who have clashed with, who feel jilted by President Trump, are not necessarily going to get in line anymore.
Yeah, Cornyn uncorked for sure, Kristen. And what's so fascinating to me about this interview is that after he lost to Ken Paxton, I was hearing from folks on Capitol Hill that, you know, he's not part of this YOLO caucus. He's in a different situation as Senators Cassidy and Tillis. This sounds like he's part of the YOLO caucus now when he's saying things about having leverage and cards to play. I mean, Mark, you worked on Capitol Hill. You tell me, but this sounded a little different than what we've heard from him in the past.
It seems like, Mark, look, he's warning this could be a disastrous, not only midterm election cycle for President Trump, but legislative cycle. Do you think that that's accurate?
Well, there's a couple things to unpack here. First of all, we have a lot of rising stars in the Republican Party. Stephanie Bice, Ashley Hinson, Guy Reschenthaler, Brian Jack. I could go on and on for the rest of the show. I'm very excited for the New York Times to do their profile on them to get their vision for the future, the vision of the MAGA movement. That being said, Senator Cornyn's portentous comments here, what I wish he really would have done was actually elaborate. Should Democrats actually take the House or potentially the Senate? Why is that? Why would that make things miserable? Well, we know that they would work to impeach him. They would work to try to undo his economic agenda, et cetera. And at every step of the way, I don't think it's any secret. I don't think that that is actually a revelation here for Republicans to view that this is what Democrats would do should they win. Like that, of course, that doubles down the efforts that Republicans need to have, you know, with the money and the message to get out there and preserve these majorities.
Mo, weigh in on that point, because I've actually heard an internal debate amongst Democrats. Should they win back the House? Should Democrats move to impeach President Trump? Some Democrats say absolutely not. It will only embolden him, while others say it should be the first course that they take.
Yeah, I half agree. They're not going to move to impeach him.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think there will be some members who will try, but I don't think leadership. There will be oversight, right? You'll see hearings, but I don't think you're going to see an impeachment. But they are 1,000% going to work, you're right, to overturn the president's economic agenda, because it's been a disastrous economic agenda for most people. The president is way underwater on the economy. He's incredibly unpopular on the economy and hasn't too busy doing other things than focusing on that. So that's where I think you're going to see them go.
If he doesn't get impeached, if Democrats do win, Mark, is the president effectively a lame duck president if Democrats win the House? I mean, does that render him incapable of getting any legislation passed?
Well, we've seen in the first term, I think it was actually Pelosi and Schumer's big mistake. I think there was a big opportunity to actually work with President Trump. He was a first-term president. There was a lot of kind of room to grow there. You know, obviously right now, both sides are very calcified in their positions. So outside of executive action, I really don't see an instance where Democrats are going to say, hey, Mr. President, at the end of your second term, let's give you a W. I don't see that happening.
But I will say this. I mean, this president with a Republican Congress has made it clear he doesn't think he needs Congress, right? He's not going to Congress for a lot of things. He's doing things by executive order now. The difference between now and what may happen with the Democratic control is Congress won't go along with it.
So, Mo, you set me up perfectly for the next part of the discussion, because, Francesca, President Trump has not gone to Congress for this military action that he's taken in Iran. Obviously, a number of Democrats and some Republicans say that he needs to, particularly if he wants to continue military action. And as we sit here and have this conversation today, President Trump says a deal is imminent. He said that a number of times. But I wonder, does this moment feel different to you, because you do have the Iranian foreign minister say a memorandum of understanding is closer than it's ever been.
Well, that's true, but you also have the administration saying publicly, Kristen, that not to believe what you're seeing, in the media and what you're apparently seeing on social media from the Iranians, that the deal points, that some of them that we've seen aren't quite correct. So it's still very, very unclear. But I will say, to your point, I asked the president yesterday when I was in the Oval Office about what the timeline for this even looks like, because a memorandum of understanding is not the same as a final agreement. There are so many details that would need to be worked out, including on the enriched uranium and who's going to get that out and how quickly that comes out. And the president said, I don't want to put a timeline on this, or rather, I don't want to put a deadline on this, because then you'll come back to me and say that I missed the deadline. So we have no idea how long this would even take to negotiate.
And the president's hawkish allies want to see if there is a memorandum of understanding. They want to see an agreement to address Iran's nuclear enrichment program, Mark.
Absolutely. That is, first and foremost, that's the most important thing in any negotiation with Iran.
Yeah.
And of course, we saw Vice President Vance draw a red line that they will not be getting cash out of this. So there's going to be some major priorities that the administration is going to focus on. But of course, the Republican Party and the American people writ large, they're rooting for a win here. They want this wrapped up. Let's reopen that strait. Let's calm energy markets. The president is very focused on this, and that's good. This is encouraging. But of course, we don't know anything until, the dotted line is signed.
Absolutely. And Mo, the president insists once this war is over, gas prices, he says, are going to continue or will drop like a rock, he says. What do you make of that, and what are the implications for Democrats?
I hope that's true. But again, the devil's in the details. When will this war be over?
Yeah.
Because to Francesca's point, even some of the information we've heard today is that once the memorandum is signed, then we go into a 60 or 90-day period to take care of all the technical details of the deal. This thing isn't going to be wrapped up for 3 months, possibly. That's getting really close to the midterm elections.
Well, Mark, it is, and all of it comes as the president prepares to mark his 80th birthday. This weekend, he's going to have a big UFC fight in the White House. Some Republicans, Democrats say inflation reached its highest level in 3 years this week, that the optics are not right. What say you about that?
Well, he can do those things concurrently. There's only one president in world history that is in the World Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'll let you all guess who that is. But it's good for our country, especially in our 250th year, for a president to like sports, to engage in the culture. That's a good thing. Of course, are there economic issues that we need to address immediately and to continue to pound that drum? Absolutely. But this is a good moment for the country.
Mark?
Mo.
I'm calling you Mark. Mo.
Should be able to do both at the same time. He's not. He's not addressing the cost of living. He's not addressing gas prices. He's not addressing grocery prices. I have no problem with him being a sports fan or a UFC fan, and I don't even have a problem with him throwing a big party for himself featuring the UFC. I do have a problem with the fact that the Trump organization is making money off of it. UFC isn't, but the Trump organization is. They're selling merch around this thing, all while people are suffering at the gas pumps.
Francesca, final question to you. What is the White House saying about the swirl around this UFC event? And you've been there reporting on it every day. It is quite a remarkable structure.
They're arguing that the taxpayer isn't paying for this, but of course, between security and other things like that, of course, critics are saying the taxpayer is footing some of the bill for this, of course. Notably, it could rain on Sunday during this time, so I'm not quite sure how that'll play out. I tried to ask the president about that yesterday and didn't get an answer, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we'll watch the weather and we'll watch this event. Thank you for a great conversation. Really appreciate it. Francesca, Mo, and Mark. Coming up next.